Okay, hello everyone. This is a look through Frasers Centrepoint Trust Annual Report 2022 dated 22nd December 2022. Right, we'll just go through the main points. Alright, net property income is up 4.9%. Things that make this better are the ARF acquisition in 2020, the absence of retail rebates, rental rebates rather given to tenants, right, and also the increase in atrium income due to lifting of COVID restrictions. Right, so these three things added to income. Things that caused the NPI to drop are divested properties like Bedok Point, Anchor Point and UT Point, and higher property expenses. DPU is up 1.2%, NAV is 1.3% higher, right, and leverage is a healthy 33%, which is lower than the industry average of 36.9%, which is a good thing really in this high interest rate era, right? So this is the ARF acquisition we were talking about earlier. Alright, this was actually dated 2020, so quite some time ago. Basically they sold off Bedok Point and added 5 malls: White Sands, Alcott Mall, Century Square, Tiong Bahru Plaza and Tampines 1. They also added office, later on we'll see that. Alright, so with this addition at that point of time, 2020, alright, their gearing ratio actually increased to quite high, which is not normal for this REIT, right? So some REITs like CICT is at 40%, but for FCT 39.3% is high relative to its normal average, right? So we look at what the ARF acquisition basically entailed, right? So they added the 5 malls, we talked about it, and 1 office property, Central Plaza. Is actually good for shareholders because it immediately increased their DPU, which is their dividends per unit. So if you own 1000 units of this stock, you straight away get more dividends. So unit holders will be happy about this acquisition in general. They divested Bedok Point to its sponsor for this amount, which is lower than its original price that it bought Bedok Point from Fraser Properties for in 2011. So some people not very happy with this, right? This acquisition is funded through private placement and debt, right? So private placement is mostly high net worth individuals who put in money, right? Not so much the retail investors, right? So 5-year performance, you can see this gap up is due to the acquisition we discussed. Okay, likewise net property income also due to acquisition we discussed. Okay, assets obviously go up. Okay, DPU is pretty good. Later on we'll look at 10-year trend except for COVID, right? So NAV, nothing much to say. Leverage, generally they keep it quite low at around 33% in the last 5 years, right? So this is a 10-year DPU trend. I got this data from 2017 annual report, so you can see all the way up for these 5 years, right? No breaks and no drops, right? From here to here is also up, right? So from 11.9 to 12.015 is still up, and it's still up until COVID it dipped. I think we can forgive them for this, and then it carries on going up. So if you look at the DPU performance, even though it looks like it's plateauing, right, it's approaching a horizontal line here, right, but it's still quite impressive that yearly the dividends and distributions per unit are actually going up, right? So not much to say here. It's just to explain how this number increased for this one. More or less the same as earlier, right? The ARF acquisition, right? Lower rental rebates due to COVID this year, right? It's from here to here. So just now what we discussed was from here to here. Alright, not much to say here. Just the leverage you can see is well maintained, and the interest coverage ratio is actually very high, right? Compared to malls like CICT. If I'm not mistaken, CICT's interest coverage ratio is below 3, right? So clearly SCT has a better debt profile, right? So let's move on. Yeah, so just to mention that later on after this ARF, I think they also divested Anchor Point and UT Point. I believe this was done to reduce their gearing to 33% again. Right, so anyway, this is letter you need to shareholders. Letter to shareholders. Alright, so we need to remember that Frasers Centrepoint Trust has a very strange financial year. It ends 30th September 2022. Alright, and they see the war and energy and commodity prices and rate hikes and geopolitical risks as things that will carry on being a threat to the business. Alright, but generally occupancy is very high, right, at 97.5%, Alright, and you can see that the larger malls are like Causeway and North Point City. North Wing has 100% occupancy, right? And shopper traffic and tenant sales gone up double digits, which is great, right? And occupancy costs improved to 16.2%, down from 19.2%, right? So clearly this is a good thing, right? So this is the cost as a function of their revenue, right? So yeah, so I don't think there's too much here to say. Yeah, basically it's more or less the same thing. Yeah, so they have this very nice chart over here that I think actually shows you the retail portfolio tenant sales year-on-year comparison, right? So here you can see that in 22 there's an upswing in percentage, right? Generally from December 5.8% higher, 13.4% higher, and so on and so forth. So you can see generally the trend from 2021 to 2022 has been quite positive. Right, here we talked about the fact that average rental revision is 1.5% if we talk about the rent coming in and then compare with the rent going up. So the one that leaves and the one that comes in, the one that comes in actually pays 1.5% higher rental rate, right? And if we look at the average rental lease of the one coming in versus the one going out, is even better, it's 4.2%, because when we talk about average lease, it's over a longer period of time. So we can expect that the first year rent is probably the lowest lah. So that's why as you go along, your rental actually gets higher in the second and third year, right? So things are improving, but the retailers and operators are cautious given the risk that we have discussed earlier, and also manpower constraints, right? So Changi Centrepoint and Century Square are the only two malls that did not have positive rental revisions, and actually recently they actually sold off Changi Centrepoint, if I'm not mistaken, above NAV, which I think is a good thing. Right, we look at other things like average occupancy cost of the portfolio, alright, is at 16.2%, which is great, right? So you can see the trend over here. Generally this number, the lower the better, right? So here it went up because of circuit breaker, so I think revenue fell, right? That's why the cost of occupancy got higher, right? So we're back down to actually below 2017. Right, so this is again shopper traffic, retail portfolio shopper traffic year-on-year comparison. You can see this marked increase in 2022 to a jump of 44.7% from last year's May. Right, so May to May result jump 44%, 48%, all very good numbers. Right, so the portfolio clearly the traffic has returned. Right, so people have returned to the malls. Not much to say here. DPU has increased by 1.2%. Right, NAV, we've talked about it, increased slightly as well. This is an interesting independent report they have from this CICT Private Limited. Right, so they are suggesting that there's increased demand in retail in the suburban areas because of more work from home. Yeah, so that's the essence of this part of the article. Then e-commerce, right, and how they expect online sales to continue to increase, and therefore if you look at what shopping centers currently are doing, right, they try to combine retail experience, combine beauty retail with experiences, right? So a lot of things is experiential at the shopping center, right? So they bring in artworks by local designers, custom services, right, free workshops. Yeah, so these are things that shopping centers have to do now to draw the crowd. Yeah, so I think one of the things about 313 at Somerset they do this well. Like, I think whenever I don't go there very often, but when I go over, I see parents with young children always involved in some kind of very young kids activity over there. But that mall is under land lease lah. Okay, it's not FCT. But anyway, FCT is one of the second biggest total shopping center floor space in Singapore, right? With a 5.7% market share. The biggest being CICT, the one that we've discussed earlier. Right, in terms of suburban, is higher percentage, right? It's something like 9.6%. Right, so with that, I'll end my presentation on Frasers Centrepoint Trust.